Hi everybody, it's Jennifer Zimmermann from ModernColoring.com. I'm the author of Coloring Zen for the Stressed Out Modernist that just came out a couple weeks ago. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be doing a jewel tutorial for you, and it is the pearl tutorial that we're going to be focusing on today. You can see that you can take any round shape and you can actually create any kind of gemstone that you want out of it. In this particular instance here, you're looking at what I call my down under mandala, which a lot of people have used for gemstones. It's available on ModernColoring.com under the shop tab. And this is an example of amethyst, and then I've got some pink multicolored pearls here. We're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to be doing black pearls, which look a little bit different. What I would recommend that you do, and you could do something like this directly on this page, or you can go to ModernColoring.com and you can download this free tutorial printout. If you go onto ModernColoring.com, all you have to do is go to the Tips tab, and under there are several tutorials. One of them is the Pearl tutorial. You'll need to download it and print it onto your favorite paper. I would recommend using a paper that doesn't have too much tooth, which is texture, to it. Mine has a little bit, but you don't want to use something that's too textured, otherwise you'll see a lot of spaces in between your colored pencil if you're going to use colored pencil like I am. Speaking of colored pencils, I am using Prismacolor Premier pencils, and the colors that I am going to be using today are totally flexible as far as if you want to change it up a bit or if you need to use a different brand of colored pencils, that's fine. These are the ones that I'm using for this particular tutorial today. So I've got canary yellow, I've got blush pink, this is true green, this one here is called hot pink, and I've got a 90% warm gray. Then I have a little blending pencil that is going to help me do a little bit of blending just so I get a smoother effect in the end. And you don't need to use one of those if you don't have one. It's not the end of the world. Today I'm also using this pencil sharpener. It's called a T-Gall. And I also have my little Mono Zero eraser pen. These things, this is just a preference. I also use an electric pencil sharpener, but this does tend to get my pencils razor sharp, which I like and highly recommend for you. And this is just a tiny little eraser to get off little unwanted things. So I'm going to begin this, and I'm going to show you how this all works. So we're going to start off by doing a black pearl. I'll zoom in a little here so hopefully you can see what I'm doing. So I've set this sheet up for you, and it is free on ModernColoring.com. I've set this up so that you can add whatever colors you'd like here to your lineup so you know what you use to create this. If you need to place information over here as far as the colors that you've used, what I call the parts of light, and we'll talk about that a little bit, or any notes like the area that would help you identify what color you used, you can feel free to place those things there. So the first thing I want to tell you about is that you should always have very, very, very sharp pencils. And I don't think you can do this without sharp pencils. It just won't look right. So any pencil that I use, I want to have razor sharp. I am going to start today with this pink pencil. And I'm going to have to just sort of move this around a little bit. Hopefully this won't interfere too much. And what I need to do is I need to establish a direction of light. And for this particular pearl, I'm going to say that my direction of light is going to be coming from the top, and I want it to hit this pearl right about here, right about there. So in doing so, I need to leave that space white. So what I'll do is very, very lightly, I will leave sort of a white area within a circle. And I'm going to use, right now I'm using my hot pink pen, or I'm sorry, pencil. And I am going as lightly as humanly possible. And I'm just basically leaving that area kind of blank. And I'm circling around it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create kind of a belt shape, which is sort of like rounded, to go around the belly of the pearl, right about here. And in between that belt and this white area, I really kind of want to fill that in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do kind of like circles. Kind of like that, until I get most of it filled in. I don't want to use too heavy of a hand though. Okay, so now you can see that I've filled in about half of my circle. It's slightly rounded down here. Okay, and I've left this area white. I need to make sure that I soften the area surrounding that white. Now something that's really cool that you can use, and if you have one, and I didn't put this on my little materials list, but I've got a piece of what's called kneaded eraser. A kneaded eraser is stretchable. You can see that, it's like gum. So to clean it, you actually have to stretch it out. You knead it, and then you fold it. And I can actually take this bit of eraser if I've gone a little too dark on here, and I can push it down really hard in a couple spots, and then I can lift it off carefully, and you'll see that there's sort of a faint tint of that color left on the eraser, and I've lightened up this area a little bit. Something else you can do if you want to get back to white a little bit is you can use your small eraser. Again, I'm using a Mono 0. Make sure that the tip of it is clean. Mine is not clean right now, so I'm actually going to wipe it off or erase off a little bit on a side piece of paper here. And then just directly in the center here, just going to erase out just a little bit. Okay, so that looks a little better to me. Now, after I've done that, the next step is I'm going to use a tiny little bit of my canary yellow. I'm just going to do it on one side, because these black pearls kind of have an iridescent effect. And on the bottom side of the pearl, which is the side that would be considered the shadow side, the left, I'm just going to lightly add a little bit of yellow. By the way, if you want to add these colors and things over here and list them, you can do that there, which I did not put my hot pink here. Okay, so you guys can do it however you want to do it. And so now I've added a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to go in and use my true green. And I'm going to use this to sort of go around the edges, go in the middle, and create a belt over here on the lower side of my pearl. So I'm going to go just like that, and then I'm going to fill the rest of this in very, very lightly. The darkest parts should actually be where the belt is. It should be the darkest area. And again, I'm rotating my pencil. I'm kind of using directional strokes, so because my line surrounding my pearl kind of goes like this, I'm using those kinds of strokes. I'm not doing up and down lines so much. I'm not doing little circles throughout. I want to keep it looking like a pearl. Okay, so now I've added that. So right now I have a pink and green pearl with a little yellow splotch on it. And again, if you want to add your colors here, I'm having a hard time writing this in here because I have a tripod with legs in the way. So I apologize. So this is what we would call a highlight right here, this really light area. And this is probably considered reflected light, and because pearls are so highly reflective, we have to show that. But pearls, generally speaking, even black pearls, are never truly 100% black. So we're gonna have to tone it back a little bit. I am using a 90% warm gray here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit just the edges of the pearl, just like that. And I'm going to start going over that little belt area as well. So the edges plus the belt. You can see I'm just darkening it up ever so slightly, a little bit at a time. I really use a very light hand when I'm doing any of this. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to sort of create a fuzzy effect leading up to that edge towards the highlight. So I'm kind of using like feathery short strokes. I'm not really keeping my pencil down to kind of blend a little bit. So it's like that. And the darkest part of this entire image is really going to be that belt, that center belt. It's the most contrast. However, because it's a pearl, we don't want it to have too much contrast. And something I am going to do is I'm going to darken this up a bit, but I'm actually going to go over very, very lightly with my 90% and just hit on top of this side of the pearl, just so I blend it in a little bit more. I want to kind of neutralize those greens and yellows just a little bit so they're not quite so intense, because that really is what makes this look spherical when this looks like it's actually rolling under over here. And I'm going to darken the edges ever so slightly. And I'm going to keep on doing that. And again, going back into the belt until I darken it up a little bit. I don't want to go too far. And I'm noticing as I'm looking at this, I think I want a little bit more pink, a more intense pink in that area surrounding the highlight. So I'm going to go back in with that pink I was using before, which is the hot pink. And I'm actually going to just kind of make this a little bit more intense, leaving this middle section white, kind of like that. And then I might actually take this lighter pink, this blush pink, and really kind of fuzz it together with that other pink. And I might actually even go over the edges of my dark gray as it touches the pink too, to kind of blend it together. Now, I need a little bit more intensity, I think, so I'm going to go back in. And I usually start with my lightest colors and then work my way to my darkest, but sometimes I do feel the need to go back in and just fill in a little bit. And as long as I'm not using too heavy of a hand in the beginning, I should be okay. Just adding a little bit more here. And then my last steps are going to be to really just intensify this dark gray, but again, I don't want it to be black, and I'm not pushing too hard. Just doing a little bit at a time. And yes, I've gone over the lines a little bit here. Part of it is because of my tripod. And I'm going to sort of circle in to really get the effect of that pearl. Now I'm going to take my blending tool here, my blender, it's a colorless blender, and I'm just going to blend a little from color to color. Make sure your blender wasn't dirty before you started. Mine was clean. And I would like to go directionally again. Kind of like that. And I'm going to take my little Mono Zero eraser just to show you, since I got a little messy over here. I'm going to erase out some of these little messy edges. I might not get all of them, but doing the best I can here today. And I would recommend that you use a brush to sweep it away. Looks a little bit better. And I'm just going to intensify that black a little bit more. Sorry, it's not black, it's 90%. This is really the only pearl that goes above like 50–60%. Most other pearls are really, the darkest darks on them are about 50%. So this is slightly different. So I'm really just intensifying that one section. Really intensifying that one section. And if I feel like I've gone too dark with something, wiping my eraser off first, I can always go into some of these areas and pull a little bit out. And there you have it, your black pearl. That's all.